is Way Up with Angela Yee, and this is exciting for me today to have the Emmy Award-winning Nneka Onuorah here with me this morning. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here with you. I'm so proud of you, by the way, for your show in general. So.
Thank you. I'm proud of you. I mean, listen, honestly, and for people who don't know, you directed and executive produced Megan Thee Stallion in her words, where she got to speak in her own words about everything that kind of happened. The focus was really the Tory Lanez situation and trial, but we got some backstory before that as well. And I remember when you were working on this.
Yep.
How long did you film for?
It's been 3 years of filming this movie, so it's been a long time coming. I was there with her a lot of the time during 2022, which was a very tumultuous time.
So you got to know the ins and outs, and I saw that there would be days that she was like, especially in the beginning, where she would just kind of cancel, not show up, but you had to maneuver through that.
Absolutely. You know, as a filmmaker, working with artists, you know, they get a lot of people in their face. And, you know, for me, when I met Megan, the first time we were supposed to meet for an hour, it turned into a 3-hour meeting, crying session, and really me getting to know her. And so when I saw her and I heard her story, I was like, I have to tell this girl's story just because she was experiencing a lot of pain. And I always like to give a safe space to women. So I had to like reassure her that I'm a safe space for you to be able to tell your story. And I'm just a conduit and a vessel to be able to share women's empowerment.
And I want to say a few things about that here because I know from what Megan Thee Stallion has gone through. I first met her before she even signed her deal, right? When she came to New York, we had her on lip service and she was with her mom.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And it was hilarious because it felt like she was more like, you know, it was early for her to have certain conversations, but her mom was just piping up, you know, weighing in on the conversation. And she was like, Ma, like, and it was so cute to see their dynamic. So it was shocking when her mother actually passed away. And she addresses that also in this documentary. And I know that's a hard topic for her to even talk about because after that, she would do interviews and they would ask us specifically, please don't bring up her mother in the interview. And so for you to be able to have her just openly talk about everything, that was my first time really hearing all of that.
And you know what, I really wanted to focus on the connection that you have with mother and daughter. You have a strong, powerful black woman teaching her daughter the ropes. You know, Miss Holly was a rapper first, so I really wanted to highlight the fact that she was really like teaching her and showing her the ropes because she was already a Houston rapper. And so I wanted to show just her helping build Megan as an artist because she really got it from the mud. And I think a lot of people see Megan Thee Stallion now, but I really, really wanted to show how she came up. She was performing in front of 10 people, 20 people.
That.
You seen that?
I like that footage, yeah. She was like, I was performing anywhere where I could go out and perform.
Absolutely.
Just like random events.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important because people see you when you're already on top. They saw her when she did the song with Wale, and they're like, okay, you know, you don't realize that there was a whole before that even happened.
Absolutely. She built that stuff. She built her audience. She's performed at colleges. She really is like her own entrepreneur and nothing stops her. That's what was really admirable about her. So that's what really made me take to her as someone to like follow in a film.
Whose idea was it to do a documentary?
So funny enough, Time Studios came to me and Rock Nation separately. They like, we have this documentary on Megan Thee Stallion. I was just about to sign a deal for a movie like that day. And I was like, let me just take this meeting first and see what this is about. And when I met her, I felt like there was a big juxtaposition. You have Megan Thee Stallion, this symbol of feminist hope, strength, and power. And then you have Megan Pete, who's going through a vulnerable time of loss, grief, and trying to navigate grief while simultaneously being one of the biggest stars that there are in rap. So I felt like that just juxtaposition, that dichotomy would create a great story because where normally Megan Thee Stallion, the powerful feminist woman, would be able to save her, she was being crucified by social media. And I also wanted to show how terrible social media could be.
It was awful. And seeing all of that in a row, because sometimes, and I've always said this, people look at celebrities like they're not human beings.
Yep.
And you go through things and you have like literally, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, millions even, saying that you're a liar, saying negative things about you, mad at you because somebody went to jail, even though she said, I'm the victim, I'm the person that was shot, but yet everybody's mad at her for saying something about it. And that's a really difficult position. And what I noticed from watching this also was initially she said that she had stepped on some glass, right? Because I think your first reaction when the police are involved is, I don't want to say something and anything could happen at this moment. It was after George Floyd, she describes that. And also you think about protecting someone because you also don't know what's going to happen after that. It's the heat of the moment. But then I felt like she had to kind of tell the story because they kept saying they were bullet fragments. Where did that come from? And so there's kind of no way around it when people keep on questioning you and asking you, and it's not glass, it's bullet fragments.
I think we gotta give a shout out to Meg for just being so vulnerable and having the courage to stand up and tell the truth. People, women all around the world need to be able to have a voice and feel empowered to share their stories when they're a victim of any type of crime. So I commend Megan for standing up for herself, and everyone who supported her has been amazing for this. So
even if you think about Cassie and what she went through and how no one believed it and people were like, this is a money grab, until the video gets released and then they're like, damn, I'm sorry. And if you look at how people don't believe women until something comes out, and then people will be like, well, why didn't she say something when it happened? That's not an easy thing to do because you're still trying to process things yourself. There's some things that women will never tell that happened to them. So
I'm tired of people really coming against women overall. And as far as my gift, which is directing, making films, I'm always going to be a positive space for women to speak up and give a voice to the voiceless. What really inspired me for this film is Audre Lorde, The Power of the Erotic. It's an essay. She's a womanist, a feminist, and really talking about the idea that every time women are in an empowered state for themselves, it gets villainized. But everything in America tells us to serve, our power needs to be in service of men, in service of the pornographic, in service of something that keeps us in submission. And so I'm interested in the matriarchy movement, not the patriarchy movement. So I'm excited that this is just one film that's going to be out about women being empowered, but we're going to do even more. And I think it's a movement happening right now at this very time for us. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, let's talk about your background a little bit, because when I first met you, you were a young intern at BET, right?
Yeah, I was for Stephen Hill. Yeah.
And so at that time, you knew this was your path. You want to be able to, because it's very different to do scripted than it is to tell people stories and do documentaries.
Yep, 100%. I started off as an intern, worked my way up in television, in the BET era, when everybody's watching MTV, VH1, music video era, doing small documentaries there. Did my own documentary, The Same Difference, which blew up. I got to do it in AMC theaters everywhere and became an entrepreneur for myself. And then, led all that into winning an Emmy. But through and through, I wanted to be able to give people a voice that didn't have it and be able to do films on my own terms. Because a lot of people, they don't have agency. They're waiting for people to say yes. I never waited for people to say yes, which is probably why you see me at every milestone in my career, which has now been over almost 15 years, of just knocking doors down. If somebody told me no, I'm gonna get the money myself. If I want you to shoot this, I'll get you a Metro card and just shoot this interview for me real quick when I didn't have it. And to go from that to making these bigger movies on bigger budgets, and I'm not stopping. I'm about to go into scripted. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And there is something special about you though, because it ain't like we remember every person that we come across, but I remember you from when you were first getting started. And so it was something that is you could see, there's something about you that is you could see this young woman is motivated and she stands out for some reason. And I'm sure that's why people feel compelled to even have these conversations with you.
Thank you. I'm passionate. I just want to see us connect. I feel like a lot of time we spend too much time tearing each other down. We spend too much time in the negativity or being crabs in a barrel. We are abundant. As women, as Black people, we're so abundant, and we need to move in that power. So I try to be an example of that and share that.
I'm very conscious of that too, because even my voice was on there a little bit. But
yeah, you heard you?
Yeah, I heard me a little bit. I didn't say anything, but I've never said anything negative because I've met Megan Thee Stallion, and I also know what it's like to have people tearing you down and saying something that's not true, and how hard that is, and how hurtful that can be for a person. And that's a lot that she went through. And I've also, from the beginning of her career, felt like she hadn't really taken the break that she needed to take for herself.
Absolutely. Seeing her, I was on the schedule with her. When she was in Japan, when she was at the Oscars, Met Gala, Switzerland, Sweden, and it was every day. Yeah. We could be in 2 countries in a day, it felt like. And so she's the hardest worker that I know, as you are too. And I respect that about you as a woman. You've always stood up for us, and I'm glad that you have your own space to have your own voice because you always uplift us in a positive way.
Yeah, I'm conscious of it being a woman, and people will be in my comments like, oh, you always think women are right. Oh, you're a feminist. Like being a feminist is a bad thing. I'm like, when did being a feminist, which just means that you deserve equal rights, when did that become a negative word for people to use?
I can't stand that. Like we women are powerful, and that doesn't mean always strength. That means vulnerability. That means emotions. That means expressing ourselves, and we're multifaceted, and that's what makes us different than men. Is that we have that movability where we can be many things at once, and all of them are powerful. So people gotta get used to that.
And back to the film that you were passionate about, that you wanted to do, that actually blew up. I saw you did a Kickstarter, but then you didn't even raise the amount of money, but that didn't stop you from making a movie. And there's always other people out there who are just as passionate as you, who might have a role that can actually really be a great way to fit in with what you have going on. So for you to say, okay, I knew I wanted to do this. I know this person will film it. I just have to make sure I get them some food and promises of later on down the line, this could lead to bigger things. But timing is also everything, right?
Yes.
So talk to us about the initial project that you were passionate about doing.
Absolutely. My first project ever was called The Same Difference. It was about lesbians who discriminate against other lesbians based on the heteronormative policing of gender roles. I was like, I'm a lesbian. I feel like I don't fit in because I'm not so masculine and I'm not so feminine. I'm someone in between. So I felt like my first film needed to be something authentic where I shared my story and just figured out, why is the community like this? Why we're so divisive? So I made that film, tried to do a Kickstarter, did not make the money. And then it just so happened, and I was working at BT at the time, so I was taking cameras at the end of work and just being like, oh, Snoop from The Wire is here. Can you do this interview for me real quick? And so anyway, after I did that, basically didn't make my Kickstarter goal. Everybody gets their money back when you don't make your Kickstarting goal. So people are hitting you up like, oh, so you're not doing the movie no more? Timing worked out for me divinely. Two things happened. One thing that happened is I got into a film festival at the same time that I did make my Kickstarting goal. They liked it, so they wanted to play it in San Francisco. And Obama made the marriage announcement that in all states, LGBTQ people could get married. And so all of a sudden, my film was the hot topic, and everybody's like, we want it. And I ended up having to quit my job. Not only did that happen, but the company I worked for that was paying me less ended up licensing my film. So I ended up making so much money, and I didn't have any producers on it besides me, because I'm bartered it. So that all came back towards me. I'm an independent filmmaker. I'm traveling from state to state at every film festival in Australia, China, Asia. And all of a sudden now, I'm this filmmaker telling this story that was just authentic to me. Didn't know that everybody would connect to not fitting in or feeling like people think they need to be this or that. And so it was really the catalyst for that. But what I did was I went and I didn't play. Like people say, you can do this film festival. I'm like, yeah, you have to pay me though. I didn't know people didn't get paid for film festivals.
Yeah, they just trying to promote.
Exactly. But I would say no, and then I would end up getting the money. Yeah. So just saying no help.
Is there an honorarium?
Exactly. I'm like, well, I'm not doing it. So saying no my whole life has helped, and also saying yes when everybody else said no has helped me. So yeah, it's been great.
I mean, that's a big deal. And even, to keep pushing, because people have told me before, because first of all, I love a documentary more than anything. Like, I love watching documentaries and real stories. But people have always said there's not a lot of money in making documentaries.
Oh, for me it is.
You like,
I got a deal. I got a deal. You have to negotiate. You get what you negotiate. My documentaries have become more commercial, but it's really about understanding the business of film. Where to do the films, are they released theatrically? Are they on television? And so there is money in docs. It's very hard for doc filmmakers. I had to build to being able to make more because I had to make more movies and I had to take more risks and whatever. And, I have a deal now, first look deal with Amazon. And I never, these are things I never imagined.
Right.
I never even thought about having an Emmy. Like, it wasn't in my head. I never thought about directing President Obama, but it happened, And so these are things that sometimes it's divine timing, ordination, and the smart work and working and believing in yourself even when no one does. Eventually people start believing you because you believe in yourself so much. So
right, and the work speaks for itself because you also, again, like you just said, you worked with Lizzo, and
yes,
you did Watch Out for the Big Girls.
yes,
that was also on Prime, that
yes.
series. What was that experience like? Because there was so much drama after that. And
I have to say that I loved working on Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls. I love those girls. Those girls are the most beautiful, passionate, excited, hardworking women, every single one of them. And I loved working with Lizzo. Lizzo supported me as a Black woman director. A lot of times when you're a Black woman director, directing a crew of 100-something people and you're trying to take risks and do new things, people are like, oh, well, we don't want to try that because we should be safe. And I'm like, take that camera off of tripods. Let's make this move. Let's make this look different. And everything that broke convention is the thing that people liked about it once it came out. But it took a lot to get there. So having the support of Lizzo at the same time was helpful. So my experience on set, I don't know anything,
Right.
about after set, but in terms of on set, it was just a beautiful experience to see those girls be passionate, work hard, and they inspire me every day by how hard they dance and just how dope they are. They're so dope, and I hope they're doing well.
I had the chance to interview her for Prime at South by Southwest.
Yes, I remember. She was on stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an amazing conversation. I'm going to tell you this, a couple of things. One, before we went out on stage, she was really nervous to sit down and do this. The room was packed. But I wouldn't picture Lizzo being nervous. Like, to me, and look, you've worked with some extremely powerful women.
Yep.
And to me, I'm like, I just look at her as like a super confident person, body positive, Megan Thee Stallion the same.
Yep.
Right? So when you get to see what people are really going through behind the scenes, it's so different. And
I think we got to humanize people. We got to stop, like, we always show our highlight reels on Instagram.
Right.
That's not who we always are, or we all go through these same emotions behind the scenes, and I think we got to start humanizing these people. That's why I don't do those interviews where people sit down in a chair and they tell you about another person. I try to do it from the first person perspective, real intimate, because you need to get to know them for themselves before you pass judgment on anybody, I feel like.
Yeah, and social media is tough for people because I also feel like when you are vulnerable on there, a lot of times that does backfire.
Yes.
And it's a harsh place.
Yes, it is.
Because it's never going to be people saying all positive things. It's going to be a lot of backlash, especially if you're telling your truth and people don't like it. And people don't understand how hard it is to come out and be honest about something that happened to you when that person is well received and well liked too.
100%. And I think that's why self-love is so important. And that's why I try to teach that in my film. Whether you're famous or whether you're not, self-love is the key. My grandmother raised me in church, and she made sure I knew that. If I even came home, I used to be in dance class, like, yo, they said I danced too hard. She was like, what? You complaining about dancing too hard? You better get in there and dance harder. And that's
too hard?
Exactly. She put that muscle in me early, so like that can't penetrate. But when you're coming up and you're getting your self-worth from people on social media, which I feel for this new Gen Z generation, you're getting your self-worth from that. You're going to be destroyed. Anything that builds you could break you down. So if you do it yourself, if you have your own confidence, then you'll get it from yourself. You'll be running on your own fuel.
Now, as we're talking about this Megan Thee Stallion documentary, there was a few different things that I learned. She took a mental health break and went on a retreat, which I thought was fascinating. And I'm glad that she did that. She felt like she came back like a stronger, different person. So I ended up having to cancel things. But sometimes you have to do that.
Yes, you got to stop. Like, there's this idea that we have to, it's always output. And that's what makes us successful, but actually input is equally as important. And I think Meg took the agency to say, I have to help myself. And a lot of times we don't. A lot of times we don't want to go to therapy. A lot of times we feel like we're too busy to make the changes, but it'll eat you from the inside out. And I think that's what I love about this documentary in particular, is that you watch Meg from the beginning all the way till now and figure out like how to help herself and find her own inner strength versus external strength from people, because that's never going to work. People are always going to have something to say negative. So,
and this was a #1, by the way, movie when it came out on Prime. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
That's a huge deal.
Thank you. There's a lot of movies on there.
Yeah, there's and around Halloween.
Exactly. Halloween, the election.
Too,
exactly. Casper. I think Casper was after us. How you beat Casper? Like, that's crazy.
Now, one thing that went viral the day that this came out was Gayle King.
Yes.
Right. And the clip on there from Gayle King and how she wasn't honest. She did lie to Gayle King and she said it on there, which I thought was amazing. But her rationale for that was, to me, just very honest and human. Right.
Yeah.
I even had, when Maina was in here, I was showing him that part in particular to show, look, she wasn't expecting that question. Yeah. What does that have to do with anything else? But she's like, yeah, I lied. Like,
my body, my choice is all I got to say. And I don't think anybody has to answer any questions about their body and what they do with their body in private. And I don't know why she was asked that, but she was. And I love that in the documentary. She's so candid. Me and Meg, like, we built this intimacy where we could just be real, with each other. And she shared that. And I respect her for that. And I think a lot of people online are relating to that experience.
A lot of girls are like, look, there's some things I'm a deny, but was certain things like that, because I was like, that was a very, first of all, I knew she had to know, y'all had to know that was going to end up being a big deal, because that was, her saying, yeah, I lied. And then, Gayle King responded to the whole, I didn't know the bitch was going to.
Oh, she did? I didn't even see that.
She
That's
did
crazy.
not say anything bad, though.
Okay.
On Gayle King's behalf. She's like, there's other things that we need to be focused on.
Like the election.
Right, that's coming up.
We do need to focus on that.
I might have it here,
exactly
what she had to say, but it wasn't negative. She said, I know you're expecting me, or maybe you're thinking I have something negative to say. I do not. I have nothing but great, great love and respect for Megan Thee Stallion and cheering her on always.
Yeah, she should cheer her on. All women. We need to empower women and stop looking at the wrong things and focus on loving each other and self-love and people speaking up when they are a victim of a crime. And also us taking care of our mental health and not just spending all day on social media saying negative things. I hope with this film people think twice before they write a comment that's negative, whatever you feel.
Or if you have a platform to think about how you're approaching these stories, because even seeing like the awful things that people were saying about her who have a platform and a responsibility, it definitely was like seeing it back to back to back to back to back. I mean, the fact that she even had that in there, I was like, that's hard to watch stuff about yourself like
that's
that.
how real it was. I like, as a director, I want to always give all sides of the story and let people watch it and experience it. This is through Meg's lens. Obviously, she's telling her story, but we presented every single thing as it happens sequentially, and people take what they take from it. But her voice needed to be heard, because there's so much noise out there that it's hard to figure out, hard to get the person's voice out into the world. So I feel like this was a way to amplify hers. I'm very happy with the film. It's like one of the greatest films I ever made. So.
Oh, it is a great, amazing film, though.
Thank you.
And even with Gayle King, I feel like people drag her too, for like when she interviews people, they'll say things, and they'll say things like she only interviews black people when they're in trouble, but that's not true. Like, Gayle King has interviewed tons of people. So I feel like people also have no problem dragging her for everything also. As a journalist, I don't know, because I was thinking about myself and approaching something that's really delicate like that. Do you ask that question? Because he said it, people were saying it. So I was like, is that a fair question to even?
I feel like, the choice was made. Would I have made that choice? No. But I love that where we are right now is that she has her story, it's out there, and whatever people want to take from it, they take from it. But I do hope that people see the beautiful spirit and beautiful human that she is, because I've got to experience the quirky, fun, silly, talkative. We talk about what house we are in Harry Potter, fun side. And I feel like that side, I'm excited for that side to shine and all the other stuff to just go away.
Yeah, I think there's some moments that may feel like a small moment, but it's very indicative, like the jalapeno chips. There's this scene where she's
one of
like,
my favorites.
She just wants some jalapeno chips.
Yes.
And it's something like that.
Women could relate to that. Like, have you ever
push you over the edge? Like,
you
man.
just wanted one thing and then it just turned, sideways. That was the moment that me and Meg became really close. Because you'll hear my voice in that scene. Like, I'm like, why you don't want to eat? What's going on? Like, and then she just told me, because a lot of the times I didn't hear anybody asking Meg, how was she doing? Are you okay? How'd you sleep? So I always was that person for her. Like, I was like, how'd you sleep? Did you eat something? I'll ask her the questions, whether she want me to or not. I just wanted to check in with her. And so in that moment, she finally opened up to me. So that was actually the first moment
It
that
felt like a break.
Yeah, we broke. We that's why you hear us laughing, and we just finally. And that moment was so cathartic because after she laughed, she got back up. She went to the Billboard Awards, won her Billboard Award, performed Plan B, and it was up, you know. And so that was to see so many lows. That was such a beautiful high that she re-empowered herself. We talked about it. She went to the bathroom, came back. Let's get it, like, you know. And sometimes you just need to let it out, and that's the space I wanted to provide. Is like just let out how you feel, and you know, we'll get through this. We're gonna get through this.
Yeah, there's so many things, and if people haven't watched it, I mean, look, I don't want to give away the spoilers, but I'm just saying that moment in particular just really stood out to me for some reason because it shows her just like breaking, but then being silly. But then it's sometimes those small things that could just make you be like, "Oh my God, everything's going wrong."
Well, I think
just
those
want some chips.
I think the smallest things are so universal. And I made a choice as a director not to cut the camera at all in those moments. Every time something was uncomfortable, I sat close. I sat still. Same thing in other scenes that you'll see in the movie that I don't want to spoil. But I like sat there anytime we were uncomfortable because what that symbolizes is when we're in a discomfort, like a state of discomfort, if we just sit in it and go through it, if you go through it, the only way out is through. So if you let yourself feel those emotions, let yourself be uncomfortable, it doesn't have that power over you anymore because now you felt it. Your body's used to it. You're not in fight or flight mode when this thing happens to you anymore. So I like tried to keep the camera going so that we could just, let's sit in this tension. We're not feeling it today, so let's just not feel it together, sitting here filming this movie. And we did, and it was like helpful. So that was like a technique I used filmmaking wise, just to like to make the audience feel her spirit and her energy, not just in like seeing her emotion, but seeing her in stillness and in her head.
What about your background in
psychology?
Yeah, in psychology.
Yeah, my background was in psychology first. I'm actually very, very inspired by Carl Jung's theories, Freud. So like I'm such a nerd for that. Like I read the Psychology Times and the New York Times. Like I read all that, like those magazines, psych magazines. And so I really wanted to talk about shadow work and the inner child with this. That's why you see Little Meg a lot in the anime sequences, because going back to that childhood always affects how we make decisions now, how things make us feel now. So that's why you've seen a lot of that backstory with the inner child and the social media therapy sequence. And so I'm a psychology nerd. So this is my way. Instead of like going the traditional route to school, I'm actually doing documentary to study the human condition. And then come up with my own theories, you know, when I'm like, I don't know, in my 60s or whatever, and say what I found.
Yeah, you're really planning ahead.
Yes.
What are you going to be doing 40 years from now?
Exactly. I want to be like one of those great, you know, psychologists and theorists in the world and leave something for people. And then with my body of work, it helps. And I'm studying human condition verbatim throughout my life. So that's why I'm doing this, because of the psychology and my love for people. There's
an even bigger purpose.
Yes, there's a bigger plan
behind it. 100%. How did she feel when she saw it for the first time?
Oh my God. So we watched the rough cut together in the theater. She felt amazing about it. Then she watched it by herself and she texted me. She was like, I'm in tears, you know, I'm in tears. I can't believe this is my life. And so she was very excited about it. She thought it was beautiful. Obviously, she was nervous to share with the world, but she thought it was beautiful. And that meant the world to me. I was like, is this you? I hope I got, you know, I hope I did everything accurately based on how you experienced it. This is what I saw. This is what the footage says. So that was like beautiful to know that she loved it. Because everybody that you do their films, they might not love it when they see it. And, you know, so I'm blessed that she did.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard, too, because you also show it to somebody, and what if they're like, oh, I don't want this in here. I don't want, and it's so important to the story.
I didn't deal with that with her at all, which is great. There was no one controlled anything. They let me tell this story, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, no, you did an amazing job. What were other people's reactions? Because I'm sure now other people are like, okay, we want to work on this. Because, by the way, 3 years working on a documentary is no joke, and you get to capture so much stuff. I can't even imagine what the process was like to chop it down to make it less than 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot. I was going to try to make it even less than 2 hours, but I couldn't. It was just what it was. But I really focused on the pacing, and Music score is important to me. I'm very inspired by the musical score. So I knew she liked horror, and I knew she had anxiety. So I called Michael Abels. He did that movie Get Out and Us with Jordan Peele, and everybody plays his I Got Five on it on their Instagram and TikTok videos. Yep. So I called him because I knew he would be perfect to orchestrate this, and I wanted to turn Meg's music orchestral. So that we can open up the audience and change and make it cinematic. So like all of those choices were made. You know, I made very specific choices for this film for a very specific reason.
So how many people are now saying, "Okay, I want to work with you"?
Oh my God, I can't even. My agents, my text messages, my DMs. I mean, now it's like all the female artists are like, what about this doc? What about that doc?
I mean, a safe place to be able to really tell your story because there's so much that goes on.
Absolutely.
And people don't feel safe.
Absolutely. People, it's I see why people don't feel safe out here in this world. So we got to create our own safety, and we got to be leaders and create our own joy. That's why I don't follow the trends. I don't follow any negative social media websites. Like, if people see something on a website that's salacious or crazy, they know they have to send it to me because I'm not going to see it.
Right.
I choose to follow.
Idea.
Yeah, I choose to follow positive people and live in the real world. And I'm not interested in gossip and that. I want people. I want to do karaoke. I want to have caviar.
Karaoke and caviar. That sounds like a night.
Yes, I want to have karaoke.
Event.
Exactly, that's it. And travel to Switzerland. I'm out of the loop, So I only come in the loop to do my work and go back out, love on my friends, love on my family, and make my movies, and that's it.
Documentary-wise, there's also footage of her former best friend, Kelsey. Obviously, Tory Lanez is in it, too, because you have to see things. Did you have to get clearance for that, or is that something that because it's on social media, you can do it? Like, I don't know how that works.
Well, there's a rights and clearances, process for all films. So every film has to go through legal before you use anything.
But they don't have to sign off on it, or how does that work?
That's the legal team's job.
Like, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
That's the legal team's job. They clear everything so that they have their own process. But I can assure you, before anything is put out,
I'm sure.
Yeah. Legal is always.
I
on
was
top
just
of
wondering
it.
how that works because I wonder if there's ever a situation watching this if it made Kelsey feel compelled to be like, I just want to reach out to, because they were best friends. Like seeing the footage of them being together all the time and like celebrating and her kind of taking on somewhat of a motherly role to her after her mom was gone. That has to feel a way if when she sees it to feel like.
I'm excited for this chapter of Megan's friends and family that she builds for herself now. Right. That's what I'm excited about. Yeah. That's all I got to say on that.
Okay. Because I know sometimes maybe closure's a good thing too, to feel like, it's a big thing for somebody to say I was wrong, or to say I'm not that y'all have to be friends again, but to be able to be like, I handled that wrong.
Friendships are important. Friendships are important. And it sucks when people get their heart broken in their friendships or people betray them. But it's always an opportunity for us to learn what a real friend is. Right. And I think that's stuff to learn too, is like, sometimes when you're on your rise, people fall off.
Yeah.
And that's something I've learned for myself, is that, as I've come up, there's people that fall off, and they're supposed to, because they were there for that version of me. This version of me attracts a different group of people. And that's the beautiful thing about growth.
So what's next for you now? What's the next passion project?
Oh my God. Scripted film.
Okay.
I'm going into scripted film with a 1-2 punch, a huge film, which I can't talk about, but I will say that I'll be doing that. More work with Amazon as well. More animated series. I'm gonna have a wide range of work coming out after this. Do some stuff on some sports icons. I got like all types of stuff coming out. I'm working.
Sheesh.
I've been working, and so I've been filming this movie for 3 years, but I've been filming other movies within the 3 years of this movie. So I have movies that I shot in Italy. I got like stuff all over the place right now. So I'm excited for more stuff to come out. I've been like laying low because I've been like deeply focused on the work. My craft has grown tremendously, and I'm excited to show this era of Nneka to everybody.
Well, congratulations to our Emmy Award winning friend.
Thank you.
And I know that's a big deal. Some people act like awards don't matter, but it's nice to be able to say Emmy Award winning Nneka Onuorah is here with us today. So congratulations.
Thank
It's well
you.
deserved. I
Thank
could
you,
feel
sis.
like the heart in this that you put into it and the trust that you were able to develop with her. So hopefully when people watch this, they get a better view on who Megan Thee Stallion is, because sometimes you have to act strong for the cameras.
Absolutely.
But, you know, what's happening when you're by yourself or you're not working? Like, what does that feel like? And we really got a chance to see that here. So
Thank you. Watch it on Prime Video right now, Megan Thee Stallion in her words, and make sure you go vote.
all right, don't play with that. It's way up.